Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black Sand Journals. I'm your host, Seti Matua, joined by my oldest son, Kingston.
Hello.
He's here to make sure that he's fact checking me on stuff. Also making sure that technical aspect is in the right place. I'm just really struggling and he's really helping me out. So, good week. Good week last week, King?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good week. Coming down from the holidays, so
Oh,
back
that's
to real
right.
life and
Right. I think I mentioned in the live stream last week, man, I got super sick again right after Christmas. Just seems like a regular occurrence for me these days. Was down and out for 3 to 4 days. I finally felt better around New Year's Eve. Had a chance to go and celebrate 75 years or 75th birthday with Auntie Olingi Matua, Iono Matua. Shout out to her for reaching a huge milestone in life. And today happens to be birthday for my oldest sister, Tewila, living out in, is it San Antonio?
yeah, I think so.
San Antonio, Texas. Shout out to Tewila. I think she's 35. At least that's what we're calling it now. Few years of 35 and doing well, living out in Texas with her husband, Iva. Hope you're feeling well, Iva, and that the recovery is going well. Iva had a major accident late last year, and I hope he's doing well. Anyway, really good week last week for us as a family. Lots of good things happening. I wanted to start today with something that's been pretty hot and heavy in the news cycle for Polynesians. We've been hit a couple of times this past week with some tragedies. Biggest one was the loss of 2 lives here in the Salt Lake Valley. Many of you have seen it, I'm sure, on social media. Lots of different thoughts on that from many different people, content creators and just people in general having thoughts around these 2 deaths that happened at a chapel for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Very familiar with that chapel. I grew up around that area, at least on a regular basis. We would visit Glendale and Rose Park because we had family and dear friends who lived and grew up in that area. So I'm familiar with that chapel, but I'm really unfamiliar with the violence that's been taking place here lately. And I wanted to chat about that because I know it's been top of mind for a lot of people. Very tragic. One individual who was trying to really change his life, my understanding is, had spent some time or some years incarcerated, had recently been let out and was changing his life, really wanted to do positive things, especially in his community of Glendale. And then the other, father of 11 children, who was raising his family in Orem, Utah, leaves behind all of those 11 kids and a lovely wife. So very sad. However, lots of blame going around, maybe misplaced blame. What are your initial thoughts on that, Kate?
Well, my initial thoughts, we were all together when it happened, and we were actually in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
So seeing the address once they got the address pulled up there, like that was the first thing that crossed my mind. I was like, oh,
It's got to be a poly
that's
place.
gonna be a Polynesian building for
Yeah.
sure, and of course it was. And then the gang stuff and bringing all that in.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting the people who are outside of Utah and specifically the Polynesian community, seeing the reactions as far as people who jumped to the conclusion that this was just like the Michigan shooting,
Yeah.
or this was just people meeting
Yep.
and then random people came out of anger and shot them up. I The second we heard it was Redwood, I was like, oh, that's probably gang affiliated shooting, which is obviously a bad thing. That's
Yeah.
my first thought is like,
Yeah.
if it's anywhere in South Salt Lake, West Salt Lake, that it's going to be gang related. And of course it was. But then also the outside Christian presence who started circulating these rumors that the LDS church was a front for the Tongan Crip gang. And I was like, what? I'm like, how does that? This guy had his whole YouTube rant, his whole Facebook rant on it. And I'm just like, what is this when obviously there's violence and there's something, but it's like you're devaluing the tragedy of everyone else by making the main point the fact that there were gangsters at a funeral and that they were drinking alcohol in the church and does the church condone this? And I was like, all these things are like so ancillary to the idea that people lost their lives senselessly
Yeah.
at a chapel. And so it's like, it's just sad that instantly it happened in my head, but in everyone else's head, it also happens that what headlines can we get from this tragedy? It's
Yeah.
headlines, headlines, headlines. And it's like when really the only headline should be that a father of 11 has passed away.
Yeah.
Let's help his family. And someone else, a younger man who has passed away, let's
Yeah.
mourn his family loss. So
Yeah. Also leaves behind a family.
it's just so sad that that's where we jump now in the world today is it's like default that there's going to be violence, and
Yeah,
so we all just have to find out how that violence is going to suit our narrative or
exactly.
vice versa.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm sure everyone had that same reaction who was familiar with Utah, especially Salt Lake Valley, that initial judgment of, "Oh, man, it's gotta be gang related." But you're absolutely right. When we set aside the judgment and think about lives were lost and in a senseless way, 'cause, you watch some of the content creators online, especially Polynesian or my generation. Back in the day, we resolved differences the old-fashioned way, and once that was done, squash it, move on. There's no point in someone losing their life for something that happened, and my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, if you know any details, but my understanding is both of these guys were shielding other people, and they got shot and lost their lives. At least that's the, what's circulating in the rumor mill. And the one father of 11 was just going out to get something for his family, for one of his children, and happened to get caught up in it. So, what?
Unfortunately, that seems to be how it happens, where it's
Y
the knuckleheads who caused the problem are gone and in the wind now. No one knows.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, the last two people that happened to be there who have lost their lives were just innocent bystanders. And it's like if you
yeah,
continue to normalize that activity in any community, then that's going to be the unfortunate circumstance every time.
that's exactly right, and that's kinda where my next point on this was, that, yeah, there's that a lot of blame that this is what Polynesians do.
Yeah.
This is what Samoans and Tongans do. Because that's the predominant, Polynesian population here, the Islander population here. And yeah, I mean, there's some validity to that. However, it doesn't mean that all Polynesians are this way. I would say the majority of Polynesians, Pacific Islanders living in the state of Utah, probably anywhere, are very loving, humble, God-fearing, and law-abiding people. All they want to do is raise their families and be happy. And that's oversimplifying it, of course, but that's really what the end game is to make sure that your family is safe and that they're growing up in a good place surrounded by love. That's I know that Glendale and Rose Park get a bad rap
Yeah.
because of that. But anyone I mean, we have family members who grew up in that area,
Mm.
and they are some of the most loving, giving, kind people that I know. And I'm not just saying that, I've experienced it. My brother-in-law and his family, the Lavatais, the Masinas, the Solovis, all of them grew up in Rose Park. The Hunts,
And they were always an open door for anyone in need in that
exactly.
area.
And you ask anybody for help in that area, they're not gonna decline you.
Yeah.
That was my experience growing up. And, to have something like this happen and then black mark being placed over every Polynesian household and name, it feels terrible. It feels dirty.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that also falls on us and all the silent majority at this
yeah.
point is that it's now we have to stand up and be a positive force for that community and that group
Right.
that we're a part of. Because if we just allow that to be the stereotype, we have to start introducing other patterns and also condemn the negative patterns when it comes
Exactly.
time to condemn those patterns.
Exactly. And, it kinda goes along if we're talking about things from a spiritual nature. The next point I wanted to make is that we're looking at it on a micro level. It's
Mhm.
a microcosm, but the bigger problem is on a macro level. It's a macrocosm, and it comes with a bigger population, and things get heated. And it doesn't matter what culture, what race, whatever it is, when you have people in a heated situation and then you add alcohol and all these other things, there is going to be some issues. And it's unfortunate, but when you think of it from a spiritual level, I had this thought that when we distance ourselves from God as a society, as families, as even an individual, God doesn't distance himself from us. We distance ourselves from God.
Mm.
And when that happens, then we turn to our most natural, basest worldly ways to resolve the issues rather than turning to God. That's been my
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, I'm 100%. I think that is the number one tool of the adversary in today's world is
Yeah.
driving that wedge. In order to drive a wedge between us and God, he's driving a wedge between us and our families.
Yeah.
Obviously, the family unit is the unit that God has
Yeah.
ordained and brought to us on earth and the most successful way to do anything. And I think a lot of these families, a lot of these young kids that get caught up in the gang stuff, it's because that wedge has been firmly planted in between them and their families, whether they don't know one or both of their parents or they're just estranged from their parents. And it's not just in our community. It's literally the super lefty liberal college kid who now
Yeah.
doesn't talk to their parents back in Texas because that wedge is there. And I think that is what is truly dividing us as people in today's, especially in the Western world. And because you don't see a lot of those problems in
Yeah.
some of the lesser developed countries where
Right.
family is still a focal point.
Mhm.
They have their issues of their own, but at the same time, it's like they can still find that closeness to God in ways that we can't because their initial unit is their family,
Yeah.
not the school they go to or
Right.
any other group that they're a part of.
Exactly. And if we look at it, since we're talking about the Old Testament this year, my example in this situation is the Israelites. God took them out of bondage from Egypt, and for 40 years, they wandered this wilderness, and they were literally just steps away from
Yeah.
the promised land.
It's not like they made 40 years and they were in the Americas. Like they were
Exactly.
just like a couple blocks down.
Exactly. And God, for 40 years, basically said, the way that I'm going to discipline people and humble them is by saying, for 40 years, you're going to wander. And 40 years has, the number 40 is very
Significance, yeah.
significant and relevant in God's time, but it allowed him to weed out the contention, the pride of the people who were in bondage, and their children were the recipients of the blessings of the promised
Yeah.
land. And is that going to happen with us? I don't know. And the other point I wanted to make was we can no longer, as Polynesians, use the excuse that our parents didn't know, because our parents have, for the most part, passed. And now we are the parents. And we were born and raised in this country, so we should know better. And I know I'm oversimplifying that, and every situation is different, but we were still raised with the same cultural norms and values that our parents brought with them from the islands. And we always talk about what's the number one characteristic of a Polynesian, and the first word is always what? Respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first word everyone brings up. What's the most prevalent characteristic in your culture? We respect
Respect.
everyone,
The
especially
respect
our
was
elders.
beat into us. But we still
Yes.
respect. Like, it's still
Exactly.
there.
It's always about respect.
So Arkblood said maybe wander means something deeper here. I would agree. I would think wander
Yeah.
because you like I
a good
feel like
point.
right now we're wandering as a society. Everyone's
Yes.
firmly affixed where they are.
Yep.
But with psychologically, philosophically, we are definitely wandering to find
Yes.
that guiding light again.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up in the chat. There's a lot to be learned. There's a deeper meaning about wandering. And there's a reason why the Aboriginals in Australia go on walkabout, because they need to find themselves.
Yeah.
The same thing with Native Americans. Even Polynesian cultures, we wandered the Pacific Ocean for many, many centuries in search of something better for our people. And I think sometimes we're not doing that in a physical way anymore, but we're doing that in a mental and spiritual way. And we just need to find our way back to God, I think. Yeah. Speaking of the symbolic significance of the number 40, it says the number 40 in the Bible often signifies a period of testing, trial, or spiritual preparation. And it brings up the example of Noah and Moses on Mount Sinai. And I thought that was, I may be way off, chat, Kingston, but think about this. Is it possible that it takes us 40 years in mortality to realize that we need to seek a higher power, no longer depend on our own power, and seek the inspiration from God? I don't know. Some people find it earlier, thank goodness. But I know in my situation, it took me a long time to be a good father. It took me a long time to realize that I can't do it on my own, and that what I needed most in my life was intervention from God.
And in the Bible, it's very cyclical.
Yeah.
There's wandering, then there's prosperity, then there's a fall, then there's wandering again, prosperity. So, and I think I experienced that on an annual pattern in my own life where it's like, I wandered. Hey, I found something that's really good and we're going. And then all of a sudden down. Arkblood again said, knowing the true path, but trying to explore detours. That's another good thing. It's like, maybe you have it and it's there, but you're still waiting and you think that there's like the people with Moses, they were probably expecting to step into lush gardens. They're probably expecting to step back into the Garden of Eden. And so they're like, this can't be it. Let's keep moving. And so, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. And the same thing spiritually, you have to fall out a little bit and then you wander back. But it's always good to hold firm to the rod once you find it.
That's right. Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up in the chat as well. I recognize in my life that I took some detours and suffered greatly because of it, but it doesn't mean that the detour was not helpful in my life. I think Heavenly Father has multiple ways of getting us back on the path. It's up to us to use our agency to say, okay, I need to go back to God, and this is the way to do it. Otherwise, we'll just continue finding different detours until we realize. I always used to tell people this: you can either humble yourself or you can wait until God humbles you.
Mm.
And that's kind of what happened to the Israelites. I'm sorry, I don't want me to down the Israelites, but these people were given manna from heaven and couldn't do it right. They got sick. All they had to do was look at a serpent. Couldn't do it.
Bad thing.
Yeah. And the same patterns are also available in the Book of Mormon when we talk about the pride cycle. And I think that's what it all leads back to
That's
pride,
what it is.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got to be down for the boys, and I can't show weakness in front of these people. So I gotta step it up. But that's pride. That's ego. And if we set that aside, there was, I'm sure, multiple opportunities for people to say, hey, I think I'm feeling like we shouldn't be here anymore. But no, it was like, I'm standing on 10,
Well, and I was studying a talk from President Oaks last night from
Mhm.
2004, and he's talking about the different ways that we're deceived. And one of the interesting ways that he brought up was he talks about the people who say eat, drink, and be merry,
Yeah.
but he also talks about the contingent of people who say all is well in Zion,
Yeah.
where there's this idea that, yeah, we're good, like this is good, this is where we are, not knowing that there's always something better we can do, always something
Yeah.
more we can do to bring ourselves closer to God and closer to Christ. And I was like, I never thought about that, because we come across a lot of the eat, drink, and be merry people in today's world.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shortage of those guys.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see, especially in a place like Utah that's very sheltered off from a lot of what happens in the world.
Yeah.
But then you find them a lot of infighting here because they don't understand that, like, you guys have it way better than most of the people around the world. So it's interesting.
Yeah. It's funny too that it takes so much more self-control and power to say to yourself, yeah, this isn't worth it, and to walk away, as opposed to, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And whatever happens, happens, but I'm going to be, I'm going to follow through on what I'm feeling right now. It takes so much more self-control, mastery of yourself to say, I'm walking away from this situation because I'm better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Arc Blood for being the active
Yeah,
commenter
let's go.
today.
I'm including sugar in my eat, drink, and be merry this
Just
year.
as we all probably should, especially if you
Yes.
live in the good old United States. That sugar is slowly killing all of
Yeah.
us.
Isn't it funny that eat, drink, and be merry is sugar?
Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
sweet instant hit that does nothing but detrimental stuff after that sweet hit. It's nothing but bad.
Love it. Love it. All right, ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Okay. I wanted to just real quick. Here's one thing. If you do this, continue doing it if it makes you feel good. But I have a really hard time going to the temple and taking a selfie and posting it online. That is just me personally, because if it feels like I'm trying to tell the world that I'm this good person.
I'm the temple guy.
Yeah, I'm the temple guy. But again, if that makes you and motivates you to keep going on a regular basis, more power to you. But for me personally, this is why I bring this up. We decided to go to the temple, and it was spontaneous. We felt strongly that we needed to go, and it was a powerful experience for us. We ended up going to the Saratoga Springs Temple at 4 p.m. And it was, in my mind, it was fantastic because it wasn't packed. But I know that's selfish because it was all about me in that moment. However, it was sad that it wasn't packed, but it also allowed me a moment to say, I get to participate in the prayer circle and all these other things to really make this visit to the temple significant to me. And it was very powerful. There was a lot of answers that came to me. And one of the questions that I asked myself as I was sitting there participating in the session was that the question was, why am I here? And I know that's really simple, but I had to ask myself the question, why am I here? It's not to fulfill a goal or to say that I accomplished something. It was more to say, I am here because I love God. I am here because I want to serve God and his children. And that became my purpose for that evening. I think it's really important for us as temple goers to really sit down and think about, am I going to the temple for the right reasons? I had to ask myself that question. And because I asked that question, as we were preparing to participate in ordinances, my worship that evening was more powerful than it's been for a very long time. So my invitation to you as we start off this new year is go to the temple, first of all. But second, go to the temple with intention. Why are you going? What are your thoughts, Kate?
Yeah, I think I would say unfortunately, but typically when I go to the temple, it's kind of a weird selfish thing for me because the temple is that place where you are yourself, you're alone, you don't have any of the outside influences, you leave everything at the door and you get there and you just have that time. About 33% of the time I'm asleep.
Yeah.
But it's like, but just being in there and being able to,
Yeah.
because it truly feels like you're in,
Because you're still going.
you're outside of the world. You're no longer
Yeah.
within the world. And that's the biggest benefit to me. I always love at least looking at the name and the day and just
Yeah.
kind of getting to know the person that I'm doing an ordinance for. And just kind of just like leveling with them a little bit. Be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here for me, but also you get to be the recipient of my selfishness
Yeah.
almost. Yeah, I love that the Lord has given us the temple to be that place of refuge, like that true place of refuge. Because obviously you have your home
Yeah.
and everything, but I do believe that if I'm within those walls, I'm pretty safe. It's a pretty safe place.
You're in a good spot. Doesn't it always feel like it's you walk in and you're just getting a warm hug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lighting just feels amazing when you walk in there. Nothing's like abrasive and in your face. The floor is nice and cushiony.
And
It's
it's
like
quiet.
they've done everything they possibly could to make that like just the place to be.
A sacred space.
That's one of my pet peeves, especially after I've done some videography gigs for multiple weddings, is the cheering outside of the temple. Like I get it, you want to be happy for the people. But like typically that exit to the temple is right underneath a window where they're doing either a session or ceilings. And so you're just like, you just blew up someone else upstairs all their peace and quiet. So I always try to tell people like, hey, just be happy, but not too happy.
Right.
But yeah, I love the temple.
Yeah.
I wish I need to be able, I think I might, it's bad because when we first came back from South Carolina, we loved being 10 minutes from a temple. So we went very frequently. And then the kids and life. And now it's like, I feel so bad because when we were in South Carolina, it was a 2-hour drive to our temple. And so when we went, it was a whole trip. We had to find someone to watch the girls, or I guess just Mona at the time. We had to find a time where we weren't working and all this stuff. So now that we're closer, I'm definitely guilty of not going as much as I know I should.
Yeah. I really had to think about that. And I've been going to the temple since I was endowed to serve my mission. That was a very, very long time ago. And a lot of times preparing to go to the temple was a struggle. It was a challenge. And I think, I don't know if you've experienced this, Kingston. Maybe many in the audience have had this experience. So when preparing to go to the temple, something always comes up or something always happens. It diverts your attention or it brings a bad spirit into your preparation. And you're like, man, maybe I shouldn't go. But it's in that moment when you realize I have to go because Satan is preventing me from taking this action, this faithful action. And the moment I walk into the temple, it's confirmed to me that I needed to be there at that moment, that day. So if you're preparing to go to the temple and something is really trying to sidetrack you from going,
you should probably go.
You should go.
You should probably make it.
More than anything, you should go. Follow through on it.
That's some more chats from Arcblood. We're not sure who you are. If you're comfortable, drop your name in the chat. That's cool. If not, text us on the side.
Serve others because of it. And your presence and goodness blesses others, even when you don't realize. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a happier person when I go to the temple. I know that alone blesses my household.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. And I can't say that we were ever really good temple goers. Like for the reasons that you said, when you have little children, it becomes very hard, but it really comes down to commitment and consistency, not just in the temple, but in everything you do in your life. But I think it's easier for us to do things in a secular way because there's a certain reward that you're going to receive. Whereas when you do it in a spiritual sense, it makes it harder because you don't necessarily see the blessings that come right away, but the blessings will come. I know that because I've experienced. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Nope, that's good.
Okay. I wanted to circle back on President Oaks's recent thoughts. He was asked a question about the lowering of the age for young women to serve at 18 years of age. my initial thoughts, and I shared that with you, my initial thoughts were like, what is happening? I see now, after listening to President Oaks, the value of lowering the age. It allows young women to go sooner so that they have more opportunities to make covenants with God, act in faith, and possibly get married a little sooner. I know everybody outside of Utah is like, man, everybody in Utah gets married young. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's true, but for a reason.
And by today's standards.
And by today's standards, getting married at all.
100 years ago, it was
Yeah.
pretty typical for people to marry their high school sweetheart and
Yeah.
go straight into whatever they're doing
Exactly.
and work their 40 years and retire.
And getting married at all.
Yeah.
Is like,
in today's
that's not
world.
normal. But I read through those thoughts, and here's some of the thoughts. More options and choices. The change offers young women more flexibility and choices as they transition to adulthood. I think a lot of young women in the past, I know sisters that I grew up with, their life is almost at a standstill between 18 and 25 because they're going to college. Some of the guys come back from their missions and get married right away, and they're just kind of there. Sisters, if I'm misstating that, please let me know, because I don't know what your experience is, but that's what I saw growing up. Was these young ladies were getting, if they weren't going on missions or they weren't getting married, they were going to school, and then school and a career became more of the path for them. And then they turn around and said, why am I still not married?
Mhm.
Because their focus was somewhere else. But I think that just opens the door for some of them to possibly have other options.
Yeah. Because I think there is that lag for girls who really wanted to serve their mission. They go serve their mission. And then by the time they get back, all the guys they knew before their mission from high school are already a year and a half, 2 years into their life. And so it's like you lose all those. You have to go make whole new
Right.
connections. You don't want to go with the younger guys that are just getting back when you're getting back. So I think just leveling it makes sense, especially with the way that missions in general are evolving. More people are going within their home country. More people are going not far from home. People are starting to serve more service missions.
Yeah.
If you're a famous athlete, you can now choose to pick a 1 year. I'm still waiting for that announcement that you can. Right now, it's
serve
the
a
only
1 week
football-
mission.
Yeah,
Going
only
on a
football
1 week
players.
mission. Just to share your testimony to the guys in the locker room.
So yeah, I think it only makes sense. Like if we're gonna level the playing field, you might as well just level it all the way. Because it never really made sense to me to go from, what was the sister's age before?
21.
So it was 21 and 19,
21.
and then we dropped to 18 and 19.
Yeah.
That to me now, I was like, why not just everybody just go at 18? If
everybody
we're gonna
go to
drop the
18.
ages, we might as well drop them all.
Yeah,
So
it makes sense.
I think it's kind of just a catching up effect of
Yeah.
see maybe some of the negative things of girls holding off a year but then still coming back, and so it's just a weird spot because you still had to wait a year. It wasn't 3 years, but it was a year, and so might as well keep everybody on the same track going through together.
Yeah. And I understand the reasoning from years ago was more for safety reasons. And maybe back in those days when I was growing up, it allowed young women to, and it's still the case, young women aren't required to go on missions, but maybe it allowed them, hey, between that age group, you still have the opportunity to get married first instead of going on a mission. But I don't know, I kind of chuckled while you were talking because I remember serving my mission, and the whole handbook said lock your heart and stuff like that. There were literally guys who were like, oh man, sister so-and-so is so beautiful. I'd love to go out with her. I'm like, well, you can't do it.
I mean, why even think about it? You can't.
And it was always this stigma of like, oh yeah, he met his wife on a mission. Like, what a joker. But
I think that's going to be the norm.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be, and it's good if you're both
because
covenant keeping people throughout your mission, and then you're going to keep it's like just keeps you. Whereas if not, you'd come home and you have that whole drop off of where you're reintroducing yourself to people, and who knows who's on the other side of that Tinder profile. So it's like, it just goes away. So I think at the end of the day, their main driver has to be the statistics behind activity and going earlier. Like that has to be the only so that's my thing is there's got to be some numbers driving this. Also the spirit, obviously,
for sure.
But with only a year change and it's mostly logistical, it has to be something where it's like, okay, there are enough young women that want to serve. Let's let them serve without being put a whole year behind in their lives.
Yeah. And some people are going to hate me for saying this, but statistically it's true that young women are more mature at a certain age compared to guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever a question, but the maturity level is there. Now they just have, I don't know. When we go back to safety, and this is my old mind thinking about this, when mom and I were in Samoa in October, and we kept seeing these little Palangi girls probably from Utah.
From Meridian, Idaho.
Yep. Walking along the road and talking to people on the road. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope
Yep.
they're safe, you know?
That would be the most stressful thing as a father. To have your little girl in a third world country
Yeah.
just walking around.
Yeah.
And obviously they're protected by the Lord for
Sure hope
in
so.
whatever means, but it still doesn't calm your heart anymore.
It's hard. Yeah.
Hey,
Especially
and
for you. You have 2 daughters.
yeah, and
Chase has
this
2 daughters.
is a joke, but with all the new temples opening, that's a lot of temple visitor centers that
Yeah.
need sister missionaries because they're not putting the elders there.
Yeah. We like elder? No.
It's got to be
We
sisters.
need some good representation.
Elders
of
are
the
just
church.
goofing off in the temple.
And then there's this point, which I think is the most important one, is covenant path. Serving missions earlier helps young women focus on the covenant path, making choices in harmony with gospel principles and eternal goals. I mean, you can't get any better than that. Allows them to go in, because we've talked about this before. A lot of times in the past, young women weren't being endowed until either going on a mission or getting married.
And that could have been 4, 5, 6 years.
And I know the push when I was serving in the YSA, the push was, hey, when you're ready, go make covenants to God. Don't wait for an event to happen.
No, that's a huge, because and I think it goes back to that being mature thing. I think part of missions is to force men
to be mature.
Make those covenants now, because if you wait another 3 years, you might not be making those covenants. And so, or it might be a much harder uphill battle to make those covenants. And so I think with women, and I've always said that, like, even when I was dating Mariah, I was like, you don't have to wait till you can go get your endowment whenever you feel ready. And she's like, yeah, we're pretty close. We might as well just wait. But no, because I think it also is great, because then you can focus on those covenants. I had 2 years, 2 or 3 years to focus on those covenants before I made the additional covenant of the sealing and to my spouse. And so I think the more time you can have to truly understand covenants before moving on to the next stage, the better, instead of just being conveyor belt ran through the temple because you're getting married at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So
many layers to that. Especially, I've talked about this before. 2 final points: that a mission, probably the hardest thing on a mission is getting along with companion.
Yeah.
So putting yourself in those situations where, okay, I got to get along with this person. A lot of times elders ended up getting into fist fights and stuff like that, because that's just the way they were dealing with conflict. If you can get along with people of different ethnic backgrounds or different backgrounds in general, and then you come home and you're like, okay, I think I can introduce another person into my life because I know how to love and respect another child of God. And then the final point is that, what was my final point? I just lost mine. Going back to your thought about the covenants and stuff and doing it whenever you're ready, I was always counseling people, especially the ones who were engaged and getting ready to be sealed to their eternal companion, that the sister or the brother who wasn't endowed at that moment needs to go early, so that together they can go and do some proxy sealings and listen to the words of the covenants that you make to God and to each other, and make that part of your life before you make those covenants to each other. It's because when you get married, you're in that room and you're listening to the old guy talk, the sealer talking, and you're like, I have no clue what this guy's talking about. And I'm more focused on what's going to happen after this.
Like I have a long day ahead of me.
Whereas if you go often before you make those covenants, you can come out of there confident that you understand what those covenants are with God. You understand what those covenants are with your eternal companion. And hopefully you understand that enough to make that a regular part of your worship together as husband and wife. Okay. All right. Moving along. New year, new Come Follow Me. We're getting into the Old Testament, which I mentioned this last week in my last session, that I'm excited to learn more, even though I've been learning the Old Testament my entire life. I just feel like we as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints don't focus enough on the Old Testament.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. It's like there's so much we're missing out on because we're not making that a focal point in our lives, and understanding that is also Scripture. Had the opportunity to welcome 4 new deacons into our quorum.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Said goodbye to, I think 4 who have moved on to the teachers quorum, and I'll miss them dearly. But I love the beginning of the year when these new deacons come in, because it's like they're just deer in the headlights.
And it's such an interesting dynamic. At least they all get to come in together.
Yes.
Back in
the day, it was like,
back in my day,
oh,
I
you're
was
12.
like, I jumped, you turned 12, okay, December, like randomly. I was
Yeah.
lucky I turned 12 in December, and then a lot of my buddies were like early in the year, so we all
Yeah.
kind of got there at the same time. But to all be able to just push in there on the first
Yeah.
Sunday,
You have like a support team now.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we can make it work.
But I loved it. I loved the look on these young men's faces. They all had the opportunity to pass the sacrament this past Sunday. And, you know, they were so worried about it, nervous,
Yeah.
and they missed a whole section at one point. But man, just having the opportunity for me as a leader to teach these young men gospel principles and more about the Aaronic priesthood and their roles and responsibilities, I'm really looking forward to it. And that's why I bring that up today, because I think, and I tried to emphasize this as much as I possibly could on Sunday when we met together as a young men body, that we really need to remember that there's a third hour on Sunday, that church doesn't end when those 2 hours are over. Sacrament is absolutely essential, very important. Second hour is important as well. But that third hour, when you're spending time studying the scriptures, either alone or with your family or your loved ones, your significant other, that hour is just as important as any other hour of church. And just trying to develop some good habits with these young men so that they understand that church isn't just on Sunday.
Yeah.
That it is a lifestyle, that your commitment to being a disciple of Christ is an everyday event. Yeah.
And a lot of their lifelong habits are going to come from that year as a
Exactly.
priesthood holder. Those things, those habits will carry out. Usually if I meet a priest quorum where all the priests are just kind of grumpy, ornery dudes, want nothing to do with it, you can look back and see that they had not the best leader, the best examples when they were deacons. And so it's good that you can get them while they're fresh and try to instill some good values moving forward.
Such a critical age.
It is. Me and Mariah look back all the time. We're like, high school is tough, but those junior high years, all kinds of things going on that make those rough.
Yeah, you got to build some really thick skin, get some callus on your fingers, and just get to work. Man, I don't know. Even bullies get bullied.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yep. Which is why they're bullies. And you just got to be resilient. You got to develop some of that attitude that, hey, I'm going to survive this even with your bullying. The best, in my mind, I look back on my life, the best way that I was able to overcome a lot of the things that I did in my life was because I had a good support system with my friends, with my family members. And when I went to church, I had good leaders who really instilled in me some gospel backbone. During the hard times, I was like, man, it sucks, but man, I know God loves me and I know that I'm a child of God. Yeah. But you had the same experience. I mean, you had some really good friends growing up.
Oh, yeah. I was, out of everyone, I think a lot of the boys, especially when we moved to Lehigh, I think I benefited the most coming to Lehigh because I had really good friends in Lehigh when we first got here. And then even on to my senior year, Bubba and Mitch, and those, like, I always had friends that were there, friends that had the same values, friends that weren't going to ask me to do something that I didn't feel comfortable doing. And I still have all those friends today. I kept my circle really small. My circle was still really small. I just had those same guys. But yeah, those early deacon years, essentially what you have to learn really fast in those years is how to adjust to change.
Yeah.
Because for most of your childhood is you've been a child and it just goes on and on. But then when you hit those years, pretty much every year to 2 years of your life from now on is going to be a change. You're going to go to high school. You're going to graduate. You're going to go to college. You're going to go on your mission. You're going to start dating seriously. You're going to get you're going to get married. You're going to have kids. Like I have been experiencing nonstop change since I turned 12. And that was 18 years ago.
And
that's the
continue.
biggest thing. Yeah. And it's just going to keep going. I've learned that my life is no more going to be consistent. There will always be change in my life. So.
Exactly. And if it's not,
then something, then I need to like step up and go somewhere.
Something needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. So that was the most valuable thing I learned in that because we moved when I was 12.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I really had a huge shift moving to Lehigh.
That's right.
And really learning how to adjust with a completely different demographic, a completely different way of life. And then from then on, it's just like, okay, I can adjust to change as fast as I need to stay one with God and one with myself.
Yeah, that was a massive change for you and Chase especially. Yeah. Micah, of course, because he didn't have you guys as kind of his buffer
Micah was in that tough middle spot.
He just kind of did it on his own. And then Kenan and Quinn, I mean, I think they they
their
didn't know any
childhood was still,
different.
moving
Yeah.
forward into that space.
All they really knew was Lehigh.
Yeah.
It was a blessing for them, but it was a challenge for you guys, and it's become a blessing over
Yeah.
the years because both of you still have the same exact group of friends
Yeah,
for the most
for the
part.
most part, yeah.
You've added here and there as well, but with your rugby friends also. But man, for the majority of your youth and young adulthood, it's been some solid people, which has been a blessing for us as parents too, because we didn't have to worry too much.
There's always a little bit with us,
Yeah.
with the boys running around the neighborhood, but
Because your boys being boys. For the most part, when you guys said, "Hey, I'm with so and so, we're doing this," I'm like, "Okay, just make sure you're home on time."
yeah,
And I heard this thing today, and it kind of reminded me of you guys in certain situations because this person was talking about. I always felt like everybody around me was being blessed, and I was just going through challenge after challenge after
Yeah.
challenge. And then I had to step back and realize I was the blessing in those friendships
Yeah.
because in some of the situations, in some of your friendships, there were guys who had it rough.
Yeah.
And you guys, I think saying it that way, it seems like prideful.
Yeah.
But I don't know any other way to say it other than you guys became a blessing to those people, and in turn, they became a blessing to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying that right.
No, I think it goes back to the wandering in the 40
Yeah.
days. Is there's times when people need to rely on each other, and then there's times where they need to rely on Moses.
Yeah.
And just get that. Like sometimes you're the blessing, sometimes you're being blessed, and I don't think you
That's
ever
right.
truly understand that aspect until you're way past
Till you're my
past
age.
that time.
Yeah, man, it's been a great conversation, King. I think a lot of, the tragedies have happened, yes, but my prayer is that we will all realize the blessings that come from the tragedies that we often go through. And I think we as a family have been 100% blessed in so many different ways. And Heavenly Father has led us. There have been hardships, there have been heartaches, but Heavenly Father has led us. We've had a lot of learning experiences because we've allowed Him to change us as people. And that change is an ongoing process, as you mentioned. And I like having the opportunity now to step back and watching you boys become fathers and adults leading your own families in righteousness. And there's going to be hits. When we're in the valleys, we feel them and they're tough. But when we hit the peaks, we realize that those valleys were essential for us to grow and to learn. Any final thought?
No, that's good.
Sweet. Anyway, thank you, Arc Blood.
Yeah, still don't know who you are, but
Yeah, you've been amazing. Love your comments. Keep them coming. That's it for today. We love the feedback. We love the live chat. I have a personal goal in 2026 to grow this audience so that we can have more wonderful discussions, whether it's virtually or in person, to just spread a message of hope and a message of love centered on Christ. So throughout this week or the rest of this week, if you feel like things aren't going your way, take a moment to say a prayer and place your trust and faith in God and let Him guide and direct your paths. We love you. Please like and subscribe. Let all your friends know. The goal is, what should we be? If I could get 1,000 more followers this year,
yeah, by the end of the year,
I think it'd be amazing.
Start of the way there.
Hey, J Money.
Johnny boy, you're a little late.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate it. Always love the comments. Love the interaction. I hope that you guys can join us on the next one. I'm going to try and increase the number of these live sessions, which makes it a lot easier for us to interact. But yeah, get the message out there, subscribe to the channel, and let your people know that we'd love to hear from them. Have a great week, and remember that all things are possible through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. See ya.